Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of SEPA Paranormal Chronicles. My name's Lee. I'm the host, and today I am delighted to have Tim Sudano, who is the host of podcast Paranormal Insight. Tim, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. So,
I thought that was like a pause, or it froze. It's like,
it was a period.
So, how's life treating you today, Tim?
Today I'm doing good. Thank you. I just came back from some travels. My grandmother, a little shout out to my grandmother. She doesn't really watch the internet, but she turned 99 the other day. So, happy birthday to her.
Oh, wow.
And we had a little celebration.
Happy birthday to your grandma. That is an awesome ripe old age.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That's a milestone for sure. And she's still sharp as a tack. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We can talk about your grandmother for as long as you like. So, where does she live?
Oh, she's down in Southern California. So she's about 600 miles away from me, but it was worth the trip to go say happy birthday to her. That was good stuff.
Now, did you drive or did you fly?
I drove. Yeah. She's by Santa Barbara, if you happen to know where that is. And there's not a lot of airports out there that handle big commercial traffic. So I elected the drive down. That's it.
I know it's in California, and that's about as far as it goes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's like me asking you about things that are in England or Canada. It's sort of like, oh,
I might surprise you. But
we now have a quiz at the end of the podcast.
Sorry, forgive the interruption there. That was a ringtone. I'll mute my phone so that doesn't happen again.
That was the Star Wars.
Yeah, sorry. I hope we don't get a copyright problem. Oh, that's funny.
I can say you're a bit of a nerd because I do a lot of Comic Cons.
Yeah.
So,
do you?
Like, I hear that music. Yeah, I hear that music all the time.
Oh, all the time. You do. You hear the cons all the time.
Okay. So, Tim, the reason why you're here, you're another podcaster that does podcasts on the paranormal, as am I. So, let's start at the very beginning, and if you can please tell me how your paranormal story began.
My story began when I was a little boy, roughly 3, maybe 4. And it's the first time ever I saw a ghost. And it was a decidedly appealing ghost, I guess, as ghosts go. But it was me asleep. I slept with my door open back then. And we lived in this little 2-bedroom apartment. And suddenly the living room light pops on. And in walks this, I can only describe her as a stewardess or airplane steward or whatever they say nowadays. But back then they were called stewardesses. But anyway, she's wearing a uniform that's green on one side, it's a vest, blue on the other. And I think she had a skirt that had the same pattern. So it looked like a steward's uniform, and she had like a white blouse or something underneath that. And she had the short, I'll never forget the way it was. She had the short bob haircut and blonde hair, fair-skinned, and she walked in like she hits my room was at one end of the hall, and then my parents at the far end of the hall. She walks in from the living room. That entryway is right by my room, and I'll give you an example. She looks to me like this, puts her hands on her hips, and starts yelling at me. However, there's no sound whatsoever, and she was almost opaque. You know, she was ever so slightly transparent, but not by much, like she was supposed to be there somehow. And so she starts yelling at me. I freak out. I close my eyes. I pull the blankets up over my head, and I'm like this. I hear nothing. I feel nothing. And finally, I relent, and I open my eyes slightly, and she is right. I'm prone, right? When I do this, and she is right here. She's in my face, and she scowls at me. She says, her mouth says something. Again, no noise is coming out of this woman, and I freak out. I yell, and I get up, and I run through her. And I'll never forget the chill that chased me afterwards. I just like going through I don't know, if you're walking to a freezer and suddenly, bam, it's super cold. It was like that. And I ran, I got my mom. My dad had nothing to do with it. I go take care of the kid. And she walked me back to the room and she sat with me a bit and calmed me down. It was probably just a bad dream. How'd you turn the light on? Now, I don't know about England or Canada, but in building codes back then, the light switches were set higher. I'm dating myself. This was in the 70s when I was a little kid. And so the light switches were set higher. They weren't set where they are now. In fact, if you look back here, this house is built in the 70s. So light switches are halfway up the door. Now they lowered them. But at 3, I couldn't even reach that if I jumped. So how'd you turn the light on? I didn't. The lady turned it on. And that's kind of the end of my story. As far as that's concerned.
Wow.
So that was my first ghost experience ever.
So, saying what you've just told me, did you, when you grew up a bit, this, you obviously still remembered this, did you actually manage to do any research to what potentially could have caused this? Like, was there a plane crash nearby or anything along those lines?
I did a uniform research. It seems there was something. It was one of the airlines that went defunct over the years. Like, it's not TWA. It could have been PSA. It could have been not American Airlines. Yeah, I think maybe it was PSA at one point. They had the green and blue. I can't remember why, but they did. And or it could have been a local hopper that she was on. But they did have enough plane crashes there that, yeah, could have been one of them. I tried inquiring with old neighbors, and like they were really hard to get a hold of. Most of them were my age when all this went down. As we grew up through the years there, it was, we knew each other, but no one ever knew about a stewardess who lived below. And even asking their parents, no, nothing really came of it. Landlord has changed of the place had changed hands like 4 or 5 times. No one had any records of who was living where. So it was kind of a dead end for me, but it wasn't for lack of trying.
Okay. Did you ever see this individual again?
Sure didn't, pardon me. I know. I never saw her again at all. Maybe I scared her off. I don't know. Who knows? But she never made an appearance again. You run through someone. Maybe they didn't know they were dead. Who knows?
Yes, like what the hell?
I was like, oh, I need answers. Some little kid just ran right through me.
Yes, so she probably went for counselling for like weeks and months after that.
Some paranormal counseling. I dig it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So is this what actually started your paranormal interest, or was it much later
initially,
on
as a
in your
little
life?
kid? Yeah, initially as a little kid, I definitely found myself interested and scared of ghost stories. I mean, I used to watch Abbott and Costello films with my dad all the time. And there was this one where a bunch of bad guys were pretending to be ghosts, but I didn't quite get the concept at that point. And that one kind of scared me sometimes. And then there was another one where I think Lou Costello played a ghost, and sometimes he'd bop in and bop out, and it's like, oh, ghosts aren't so bad. They're kind of funny. It's weird the odd connections you make when you're a kid. But over the years, I had not only other ghost stories told to me, but I've had other experiences that convinced me that there was something else going on. Both personal experiences and other stories, and it was when I was very young. I mean, fresh out of high school, I was a private detective, and I went to school so I could learn how to, really look at things objectively from a real investigator's point of view. And in that class were other actual police detectives taking their, it's called CE for short, and it's called continuing education. I almost blanked out what that was. Well, the course was the course. I mean, for them, it was old hat. And for me, it was boring as sin. And mostly it was me just talking to these guys, listening to their experiences and following their example that taught me everything I really could ever learn, more so than what the class actually offered. So they were an invaluable resource. And I learned how to be a better detective because of them rather than the course itself. No offense to the instructor. I'm sure you're a fantastic dude, but I just couldn't keep up. Well, he kind of droned on the same thing over and over, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, end of class. Whoops.
Oh yeah,
Guess I'm
yeah,
going to fail that
yeah.
class anyway.
I've had those.
Like, anyway, I digress. So,
So yeah,
did you have a
so
question for me? I'm sorry.
obviously
Go ahead.
doing it. Yeah, so that's okay. That's okay. So obviously doing this investigation course. At what point then did you realise? Okay, I want to start investigating the paranormal on a regular basis.
Yeah. So that was the early, like 90, 91 when all that happened. And in 92 to 94, I was in the Air Force ROTC program. So that took up the bulk of my experience then. And I had kind of fallen out of my paranormal phase, I guess you can call it, but you never really leave it if it holds your interest. And there, it wasn't just ghosts I was interested in. UFOs. I read that UFO magazine, those back issues, cover to cover, every single issue. I mean, I love that thing. Then Omni came out and they covered some of that stuff too. It was more scientific based and it was great. So it never really left me. But, I was in the military and then I was out of the military. And then I was watching one of those ghost hunting shows. And I'm listening to how they're proceeding. And it's like, oh, well, they missed this step, that step, the other step. I mean, it's basic investigative stuff, and they're not quite doing it. They're doing some of it, but not all of it. And it seems to me if you cover all the bases, you're going to get a better feedback, so to speak, at least from the witness. And then you can proceed a little more logically because I think the producer said something to do with the fact that certain shows would just kind of go off. Oh, I have a flight of fancy. I think this is happening. I think that's happening. And sometimes you do have to go after your instinct, but there's also a protocol and a thing you have to follow. I have a list of like 35, 40 questions that I ask every single one of my clients all the time. And it's way beyond who, what, where, when, why. It covers all those bases. So in '09, I got a fancy to try my hand at paranormal investigation because I figured no one's really in my area doing that. And so if I can help people in my area, because I know I've heard ghost stories are in my town forever, right? So I decided to try my hand at it. And we did one case kind of as a test. And wow, was that '09? I may have my dates wrong. But anyway, maybe that was 10. That was 2010. I think that's what it was. And we get a little team together. My best friend Henry, I don't know if you can see him up on the wall over here. He and I got together, started this thing, and I was the one who had the Paranormal Insight. That's my name of my show, by the way. But he was the he was the scientist. He was the hard fact, empirical evidence guy. He's the one who would truly say, "No, Tim, I don't think it's ghosts. I think it's an electrical short, and that's what's causing the problem." Something along those lines. So we tried it. We went out and we chased something interesting. I figured I'd throw us a big old curveball challenge from the outset. And we investigated a college theater. big, beautiful theater. I mean, the whole ballets there and operas and stuff like that. And it went up in the late 70s when it first went up. And in their first showing, it is rumored, and it's a persistent rumor because I've spoken to people who were working there when the thing first opened. They were there when I was there, attending classes. And they always told the stories that this absolutely happened. I don't know. I don't know why it happened, but it did happen. And they tell the story about how this kid made a proposal in front of everyone at the end of like the inaugural show that was there. And he proposed to his girlfriend. His girlfriend rebukes him and says, no, you're sweet kid, but no. And he loses it. He doesn't lose it. He just kind of folds in on himself and runs away. And no one sees him for a little bit. And then he gets, I guess it's the end of the night. Everyone's more or less gone. There's a couple of hangers on and there's staff still there. And suddenly this body comes flying down from the second floor balcony, which they had since sealed. And it's a second floor. You're going to break some bones for sure. But this kid was looking to end it. He went head first. So the rumor goes. Now, in investigating this and doing all the prelim, what I found was that there was zero mention in the police reports, zero mention in the security reports for campus. But for these rumors, nothing in the newspapers either. No missing person, no strange, mysterious death, nothing. It was buried. It was weird. So now we're operating on rumor. Okay, so now we have to prove it and see if the rumor has any validity through a paranormal means. So we go there and we investigate. It's mostly quiet. And at the end of our session, and we only hear this on playback, one of my investigators asks, where are you in relationship to me? Okay, that's roughly her question. I say roughly because she mumbled a couple of things. But anyway, we had a camera. I was holding a camera. She was holding a voice recorder, and we had a second camera somewhere over here. And of the three devices, only hers recorded a very solid EVP. And it says, I'm right next to you, and then says her name. I'm right next to you, Betty, that type of thing. Her name isn't Betty. I just don't want to throw her real name out there. But I'm right next to you, Betty.
Yeah,
and we were addressing the person who committed suicide. So, yeah, we potentially, I should say, proved a rumor to be true, which is crazy.
And it's interesting what you've just said, because as a fellow investigator, if you call us to say that you've got paranormal activity at your house, you said that you've got 30 to 40 questions. We probably have the same, but it covers 9 pages.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, and we cover absolutely everything. But you have to do that much in-depth questioning.
Oh, sure.
Because in this day and age, what a lot of people may think is paranormal has got a logical explanation.
For sure. I
do find that there's two kind of groups: them that go out with the intention to want to be scared, and them that go out with the intention of helping individuals.
Right.
And I think there is a split between the two of which parties want to do what.
Oh, there's a definitive split.
Yeah. Oh, sure. So the team that you talk about, is this S.C.A.R.I with the T-shirt that you're wearing?
Yeah,
or was
S.C.A.R.I,
this another group?
It stands for the Seekers Seekers. I can't say my own name. The Seekers of California for Aethereal, spelled Aethereal. I can't spell either. Investigation. So scary.
Yeah. I'm really glad you said that, because I was thinking ethereal. I sort of like if I stumble over that, that's kind of
took from the Latin that A sound, and I was like, yeah, that starts with an A. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have been scary. what it says.
That's very true. That's very true. So you say that S.C.A.R.I was created around the 2010 mark.
Give or take, yeah. We
Can
officially went into
you,
business in
yeah.
2011.
So can you just give us an insight into some really like cases that stick into the back of your mind at all
Oh,
times?
well, I say this on just about every other show I've been a guest on, and my own, of course, but I'll tell you some basics. The one that Henry and I, again, best friend, I don't know if you can see him right there too clearly, but the one that Henry and I always refer to is what was a classic, and I mean classic, poltergeist type haunting. But they had literally had everything happening to them in this house. They had not only object manipulation, they had full bodied apparition witnesses, they had orbs, and they had phantom sounds. And yeah, so everything was happening in this house. And when we get there, we go at night. These guys are okay staying up with us for the night. So, and P.S. to those of you who don't know, if you don't have a TV show backing your play, you cannot send them to a hotel. So a lot of times the client has to stay with you. And it's okay because they're actually good trigger objects in their own right sometimes. Not that I'm looking to use them as trigger objects, but it's also, they also remember details outside of the initial interview. I was like, oh, I forgot to mention this. That happens all the freaking time. It's a little annoying sometimes, but
Oh yeah,
par for the
yeah.
course. And so we get there, and the first thing that happens to us is one of the reported things, object manipulation. In this case, it was this, I make it 25 pounds of like this integrated dog feeder. So it had a big, like, I don't know, 2-3 gallon jug of water and a 2-3 gallon jug of food that gravity fed into bowls. And it was kind of heavy, especially when it's filled up. And we don't witness it, but we hear it, but for our ears. But this thing was up against the wall, and we all saw it because we had a tour of the hot spots first. Lights on, then we go lights out, and we hear brrr, and this dog dish, 25-pound dog dish, moves into the middle of the kitchen. Again, no camera, just audio. It's really annoying. I wish we had more stuff back then, but we didn't. And we go in there and we investigate. We turn the camera to everything because we're shooting wide. We're way back with the camera anyway. And we go in there and we investigate. And Henry starts looking around, and I see his head moving just so. And he says, "Tim, I'm going to take a few measurements." I was like, "Okay, go for it, buddy." And he measures where the dog dish lands, laterally, horizontally, or whatever it is on the floor. Longitude, latitude, I guess would be the best way to put it. And this thing hit the exact center of that kitchen. The exact center. I mean, if we're off by a millimeter, he would be surprised. It was amazing. So we push it back. We wait for it to happen again. It doesn't. Then we go back investigating the rest of the house. On playback, we witness an orb, and I didn't believe in the orbs up until this point. An orb actually passes through my back, out my abdomen, I can't talk, and then through my arm and out the other side. And it wasn't a bug. A bug wouldn't do that. There were no bugs in that house. But it was bright too. It was brighter than any of the occasional dust or vapor that happens in a house if it's a dirty place. This thing was bright, and it didn't move like a bug. It didn't zip, and this thing went through me. There's also that, and I actually react at one point, and I scratch my hand exactly where it enters my arm. My arm, rather. Scratch my arm. I can't talk. But so that was one thing, and then after that, also on playback, we had a psychic team with us on that particular hunt case. I shouldn't say hunt. People frown on that. Pardon me. And she just kind of goes into this trance, and she has her head buried, and she's kind of crying, but it's more like her eyes are watering versus actually weeping. And it's like, well, okay, what's wrong? What? Tell me what's going on. He's here. Who's here? He's Austrian. Oh, right. Now that matches the landlord prior who had passed recently. He's Austrian and he's mad at you. He's mad at me? Yeah. What's he mad at me for? I'm not too sure. He's not articulating. He's shaking his hand like this. No, no, no. At you. I said, he's shaking his hand, and now I see an opportunity to escalate. Okay. Because we hadn't seen that much at this point. Except for the dog dish. And so I said, so I escalate and I get a little provocative, I provoke a little. I said, oh, if he doesn't want me here, is that what you're saying? No, he doesn't want us here at all. I said, oh, well, that's too bad. He's scaring these poor people, and I'm here to stop him. If he wants me out that bad, he could push me out. Nothing comes of it. So I said, so what's he saying now? He's just repeating himself. No, 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 you shouldn't be here. No, no, no. And then after 5-10 minutes of this, everything kind of lets up. He's finally gone. On playback, behind, we were all sitting kind of center this is in the master bedroom where this happened. We're all sitting center, and behind her is a full-length mirror. We see a human form step out of the mirror, and he's kind of staticky, white, like it's like a blurred, like TV snow, right? And but it's blurred, and it's not as definitive, but it's a human form: head, shoulders, arms, legs, the whole thing. And he has his hands on his hips for 10 minutes, and there's no real other motion. And then when the session or whatever this was ends, he walks backwards. There's no him turning around. He just walks backwards back into the mirror and disappears.
That's a bit crazy.
That's a bit nuts. And then the one other live thing we caught was in the same house. I happen to have my camera rolling because we had just wrapped up an EVP session in one room. And we all hear this galloping down the hall. Now, they have dogs, but their dogs were outside on purpose. And what I see with my eyes is this hunched over, leather-hided, like almost elephantine thing gallop along. It didn't appear to have a head either, but it moved like a chimp. The way chimps gallop, when they run, they kind of go sideways. And brr. That's exactly what I saw go down the hall. The client witnessed that as well. I had my camera pointed right at it. Did not pick up on camera. I was ticked off. And I was in night vision too. But you hear it, but you don't see it.
That's strange.
Yeah.
That's very strange.
That one confused me.
Yeah. So when you go to a location, are you one of these people who do your research on the history of the location?
Sure.
Or do you go in blind?
I try to do as much research as possible. It's not easy to get all the answers you want. I also have access to a geologist who knows how to look up geology records so we can see what's happening under the house as well. So that's helpful. Usually there's a lot of iron and a lot of quartz in the area of these hauntings, which is kind of a fascinating little thing. So at least here in San Jose, that's kind of the common thing. I don't know about everywhere else, but iron and quartz. Who knew? Apparently it's a magnet for paranormal activity. And we had a case rather recently where that was the case as well. Iron and quartz in the ground.
And that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I know as a reputable investigator, you go and you check EMF levels, you go and check black mold, you go and check radiation and all the normal stuff. But a lot of people don't check geological sources. Sometimes it's not possible.
Yeah.
But that's a really good resource to have, because the iron or the can actually affect your instruments for a start.
Yeah.
And it can actually affect some results, and in some cases it can provide people with like make them feel ill depending on if it's in the water source and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah.
how often do you use this guy?
I use it as often as I can. It's not always available, but I use it as often as I can because it is telling, just because of past investigators who've done stuff like that and had, drawn up that correlation that we just talked about. And if I see something similar, I can say, okay, are we talking about the crystalline stuff in the quartz actually storing given energies and memories and stuff like that, like a recorder? We're just now experimenting, really, finally experimenting with not only piezoelectricity, but the ability for said crystals to actually, when you decompress them, they'll actually absorb energy too, which is crazy.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, so yeah, so a crystal under pressure will expel energy, and the crystal relieves of said pressure will absorb it, which is just amazing to me. And that includes all kind. Apparently, they've had a lot of success with data transfer too, using crystals. I mean, it's right at Stargate. It's kind of funny. So,
I've learned something today now about crystals.
oh yeah.
So yeah,
Quartz
so are
crystals
you also
specifically.
okay? Cool. Okay, I'll just make a note of that.
Yeah.
You mean quartz? So, are you a team that will use the proverbial gadgets, or do you stick with the basics of audio, video? Do you have your REM pods and that kind of stuff?
I never really invested in them. I have tried them as a guest investigator on other things, and I find that they are, for the most part, I don't want to say unreliable, but easily foulable. I mean, I'm able to fool these things with a CB or a walkie-talkie, rather.
Yeah.
You got REM pods especially.
Yeah.
The things I trust are, and even then, even in saying this, my experience is limited. I like the SLS cameras, although I think those are fallible too, to a degree, because they could lock onto a false object. I've seen it happen. So a false positive is definitely possible, but for the most part, they do some interesting things. But I'm a video guy. Sound recording, absolutely, and we use infrared and UV enhancement as well when required. Mostly infrared enhancement, just to give the cameras more of a focal field to, if anything's going on in the background, right, we see a weird flash, but if we have a flashlight on it that's infrared, we see it all. It's pretty cool. In EMF meters, I like EMF meters too.
Yeah. So I have a tri-field that, because it's designed to be used in everyday life, it's more trustworthy than a little box that's got flashy lights on it, because there's no gauge on that. Whereas with a tri-field, you can actually get good solid numbers of how high the EMF is. And as a team, we do have some of the other gadgets. We do have a REM pod, but like you say, they can be extremely easily manipulated.
Yes.
But we will test them, and we will also put them in a location where there's no power at all. So you can rule out that it's being dealt with by electrical activity. We don't use radios. All the cell phones are either kept at the base station or put in airplane mode. But even then, we keep everything that can interfere with them away from them. So if they do go off, we don't say, "Oh, that's gone off because of X, Y, and Z." We look into the reasons why it went off. So was there any electrical activity close by? Did somebody accidentally use their cell phone? And that kind of thing. So we do use them, but we don't rely on them, like you said, because of all the false positives.
Right. No, I mean, that's the chief reason I didn't invest. Radios, if I'm investigating like a giant mansion, might come in handy, but at the same time, I would just say yell.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
exactly.
like I said, I remember it wasn't just me too. A few other investigators, even some of the TV investigators have run into that too, where they get a false positive because they're chatting on the radio. So that's a good practice. Keep your phones in airplane mode. Yeah, we do our best to do that as well. I do have a couple of phone apps I like to use when it comes to the. I just forgot what they're called. The speak bot. Oh
Spirit
gosh,
box.
Spirit. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Spirit box or the Ovulus or something along those lines. The word bank. Some of those are I'm 50-50 on using the word bank, but we've had some interesting results where the same words pop up on two different word banks, and that's kind of our gauge. It's like, oh, okay, or very similar words that mean the same thing. So once in a while, I'll
yeah,
give the Ovulus or whatever that a spirit box a credit, but at the same time, you have to imagine it was built for entertainment chiefly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
not
And
to scare
and
the
that's the
user.
important. Yeah, that's the important thing. Because I always tell people, if you are going to use something like an app, or you're going to use an Ovilus or a Spirit Box, just because it is throwing words out, it doesn't mean that these words are relevant to the investigation.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing that you have to enforce. So a perfect example: we went to an investigation last year in a private dwelling, and as you pull up to the house, there was a cemetery on the left, a graveyard on the right. Half of his house was built 1875, half of it was built in 1950.
Okay.
And when we went into his basement, we switched on one of these apps, and it came up with cemetery graveyard 1950.
Huh.
But we only switched it on. We only switched it on when we went down into the basement.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like, okay, explain that, and we couldn't. It was so weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I find it interesting when those devices come up with relevant terms, and sometimes you can build upon just the human mind, the way it works. It can build upon certain terminology or words in particular. But I mean, that's pretty close. Cemetery graveyard 1950, and those are the facts before you even turn the thing on. So there you go.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you operate
So
those in airplane
is
mode
there
as
any
well?
exactly? Yeah, exactly. We do.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good,
So
good,
that
good,
made
good.
that made it even more.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. So do you have a favorite kind of location that you would like to investigate?
I the bulk of my experiences have been in personal homes. There was one instance, I think it was a couple of years ago now, where we went to a haunted attraction called the Winchester Mystery House out here in California. And if you haven't heard of it, look it up. There's even a movie about it called Sarah Winchester. You can watch that and get a general idea of what happened. But Sarah's story is interesting. She had this gigantic mansion. She was part of the Winchester gun family, the weapon that won the West here in America. I don't know about Canada necessarily, but probably. But anyway, they built this huge place, and it was on a sprawling bunch of acreage out here back in the day. And after her husband passed, she consulted a spiritualist, and that spiritualist got in touch with a who knows what, a spirit or whatever. And she gave her an interesting thing. She says, keep building, and it'll keep all the bad spirits at bay. Excellent. Okay, so she did that. She
Okay.
kept building. This mansion ended up with something like 199 rooms, 3 floors, and a footprint of almost like half an acre or something like that, something crazy like that. And anyway, so we go there, and it's just, we hear about the hauntings and the spirits, and we know sometimes they see Sarah Winchester herself and all that. So we went as a team on the tour, and at one point in the tour, and I've been to this place several times myself as an individual, never saw anything. But on this occasion, I look back because we're cheating. We're hanging back ahead of behind the tour, and we're taking little videos and stuff. And I'm son of a gun if I didn't stop my video, and I'm about to leave, and I see this dude with a mustache and a hat and coveralls working on something like he's sawing or hammering. I couldn't tell which. And he looks up and he kind of smiles, and then he goes back to work, and then he fades away. And he was kind of purplish in his hue. Just the whole thing had a purple hue to it. And I tell my team, they said, "Oh, that's crazy. That's nuts. Okay, document that." And I do my best, and on we go. Maybe another 10 minutes into the tour, we hit the service stairs going up to another location. And if you look on below me on the wall of the steps, there's a few of the workers here. And if you look to the left of this one picture, there's this guy that always shows up. People always see him around the grounds. And we think his ghost is stuck here. His name was this, that, and the other thing. Well, so that guy was that guy. Across the front row of these workers was the guy I saw in the hat with the mustache, the big handlebar mustache, same overalls and shirt, and he had this plucky little smile to him. I was like, "Dude, that's the guy." I pointed it out to my team. It's like, "Oh my gosh, we saw one for real." Or at least I did.
That's pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
So
I still get chills thinking about it.
At what point? Well, that's good because that makes it all part of the fun.
Exactly.
So after being an investigator with S.C.A.R.I for a few years, at what point did you decide that you were going to start doing Paranormal Insight, the podcast?
Paranormal Insight came about as did with me recently because of the pandemic. I still wanted to help people. No one was calling us, and no one would be calling us for a while. And just because of the lockdown and everything else associated with that. And it was a way to continue to help people. So I hopped on, I think I was a guest on the podcast first. And then my partner in S.C.A.R.I, JJ, I think maybe you met her or interviewed her.
Yeah, I'm planning to interview her in a few weeks when she's fully recovered from a incident.
Gotcha. Anyway, she said, "You know what? You should be a guest on this guy's show." I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Why not?" So I met Eric Salachi, if you know who that is, on the Uncomfortable podcast. And after we were done, I talked to him. I said, "Hey, do you think I should do a podcast as well? Because I'm thinking about doing it." He says, "Yeah, it's a bit of a saturated market, but you have your own take on things, and you have your own experience that you can share with people, and maybe even advise stuff. So yeah, I mean, you have more to say than what you said on this show." And I says, "Yeah, I sure do." And that kind of what started it. So I put a little brand together, and ta-da! Here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, because it's interesting that you say that it's a saturated market. But when I first started looking into doing this podcast, I didn't just want to concentrate on ghost stories or spooky locations. So I kind of Googled the word paranormal, and then I saw all the different subsections. So I thought to myself, right, I'm just going to cover as much of these subsections as I can. And that means having so many different people on the podcast. You can be talking about fairies one week, talking to a demonologist the next week, a UFO investigator the next, and there's so many different subjects that you can cover. So do you kind of stick to one type of story on your podcast, or do you cover the whole spectrum as well?
I cover as much of the spectrum as I can. In fact, this coming Thursday, we're going to kind of talk about that. I have this thing, and it goes by many different names, but I kind of retermed it, kind of fit my own model in my head. And I call it the Paranormal M theory. So we're going to be talking about that on my show this coming week.
Oh, cool.
And so if you know what M theory is, it's the paranormal version of that. So, again, I think it goes by unification or unity theory or something else like that. I can't really recall at this point, but so I'm not the first one to come up with this concept, but I do have my own name for it, at least.
Cool. Yeah, and it's like I was talking to some guys on a podcast that I recorded in the middle of last week, and what I always find interesting is you can have 10 different people on either ghosts or cryptids or UFOs, and every single story is different.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everybody's experienced something different, and it's never going to be the same story twice.
Very, very,
And that's
rarely. Absolutely, that's the case. Absolutely, that's the case. Once in a while, I have some overlap.
And
Did you hear the story about
like.
this, that, and the other thing? Is that, oh, yeah, someone last week said, okay, so you know what's going on. I said, I usually give them a chance, though. I said, why don't you recap it for the audience in case they weren't there that week? Great idea. And they did.
Exactly. Yeah. So, speaking to you personally, not as an investigator, not as a podcast host,
okay.
Do you have as much interest in like cryptids and UFOs as what you do ghosts and spirits?
Absolutely.
Or do you kind of like? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Yep.
my interest has always been varied because my personal experience, I've literally seen everything, every single one of those aspects of, majorly. And I've had my own psychic experiences ranging from seeing ghosts and being psychic in that way, I suppose, versus then all the way to telepathy I've experienced. And I've experienced, like literally communicating with someone else telepathically in the same room. Wow. I mean, that was just a bizarre experience in and of itself. But I've seen UFOs, and I've been on a Bigfoot hunt where I actually found evidence. So all those major, top 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it happens to be, categories and their subcategories, absolutely interest me. Absolutely. And I do talk about them on the show. And they've actually given me more. I'm so sorry. I cut you off.
That's okay. That's okay. Carry on.
I was going to say that in doing this show, it really made me delve back into the research of these various things. And it has maintained my interest in all these. So I'm absorbing all kinds of new information. Oh, there was a sighting in Washington. There was a sighting in Montana. UFOs are doing this crazy thing in Florida, that type of thing. But so, yeah, I'm very much into pretty much the entire paranormal spectrum.
That's really cool. Okay, Tim, we are coming towards the end. So where can people find you? Where can people find your podcast? And what's next on the agenda for Tim?
Next on the agenda for Tim. Okay, I'll go backwards if that's okay. So, as I mentioned, this coming Thursday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern in the U.S., we will be having a discussion about the paranormal M theory, or sometimes called the unity theory or the unified theory of the paranormal. Basically talking about all the things I've seen, all the things that have been discussed on the show, and what the possible interconnectivity and relationships are between all these different things. You can find that show on the UPRN Network, and they go by the, oh my goodness, I'm going to blank on the name now, aren't I? The UFO paranormal something. It's on YouTube, but look up the uprn.com. You can go right to the proper site. I can be found on YouTube individually as well. I simulcast my show to the UPRN network. I can be found on youtube.com/paranormal_insight. Or if you want to talk to me directly, paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. I will respond to you. And I am also on the internet. Mostly it's just intro videos of what's coming up next for me. Little teasers. Not even teasers, really. They're just me saying, hey, here's what's coming up. Here's the guest. But I can be found at paranormal.insight on Instagram. That's it.
Okay, that's it. Okay, my friend. I know that you and I are going to see each other like very soon.
Very soon. Lee's going to be a guest on my show.
Yeah. Oh, you've just let the cat out the bag.
Oh, did I see that? Oh, no.
Not a problem. Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
I've
loved hearing about your stories and about S.C.A.R.I. And thank you for your time. And I'll be seeing you again very, very soon.
Very, very
Thanks
soon.
a lot, my friend.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.